It's astonishing how quickly a Hollywood star can rise, only to crash and burn just as fast. Once hailed as Disney's next shining sensation, Rachel Zegler seemed poised to charm the world in a reimagined take on a beloved classic. But now, rumors swirl that her own words and her polarizing actions have turned that dream into a public relations nightmare. Industry whispers say box office disasters, backstage feuds, and explosive social media storms have put both her reputation and her relationships on the chopping block. And if you thought the film's dismal performance was the worst of it, think again. There's far more at play behind those glossy posters and smiling red carpet photos. Let's uncover how everything went off the rails and why this controversy might follow her and Disney well into the future. When news first broke that Disney was remaking its 1937 classic, fans were eager to see a refreshed story that could resonate with modern audiences. Rachel Zegler, hot off other headline-grabbing performances, was the studio's chosen fresh face to breathe new life into an old tale. Optimism soared. Then came release week. Despite the hype, the movie stumbled, failing to draw even half the crowds Disney had projected. Within days, headlines declared it among the biggest bombs in recent memory. Early viewers lamented a lack of enchantment, and online ratings dipped so low that some fans questioned whether this had truly been crafted by Disney's once surefire creative team. It might have recovered with a decent word of mouth if the controversies had stopped there. Instead, the negative buzz intensified. People who hadn't even seen the film began voicing strong opinions, propped up by social media chatter that cast Rachel Z in a less than favorable light. The final outcome? A second-week drop so severe that film analysts called it a record low for Disney's live-action ventures. And it turns out that was only the beginning of a deeper meltdown, one that involved co-stars, Disney executives, and a social media firestorm that refused to blow over. Even before the movie came out, Rachel Zegler's interviews raised eyebrows. She took aim at the original 1937 movie, calling many of its elements outdated and not aligned with today's values. While some fans applauded her modern perspective, others bristled at what felt like an open disrespect for Walt Disney's classic. Then came the unthinkable. She described the prince as a stalker, implying the original storyline had bizarre undertones. A storm erupted. Traditionalists blasted her for disregarding the wholesome appeal of a fairy tale romance. Even the son of one of the original film's key creatives weighed in, suggesting her remarks smacked of arrogance and irreverence. Disney's damage control teams found themselves in overdrive, reportedly holding emergency meetings to figure out how to rein in their rising star. Rachel initially stood by her statements, claiming it was time to update old narratives. But the backlash was so fierce that she soon backtracked, insisting her comments were misconstrued. Critics, however, sensed the shift was more about salvaging public opinion than clarifying a genuine misunderstanding. Whether you agree with her fresh take or not, it's clear that the moment she questioned a beloved classic, she hit a nerve Disney couldn't afford to overlook. A significant piece of collateral damage in all of this is Andrew Burnap, cast as the story's male lead. For him, the live-action remake was meant to be a career-defining breakthrough. He approached the project with optimism, auditioned rigorously, and celebrated when he got the call that he'd landed the part. As production kicked into gear, Andrew envisioned audiences falling in love with a newly fleshed-out character, someone more modern than the old-fashioned Prince Charming. Things took a dire turn once Rachel's headline-making statements implied the love interest was basically irrelevant, or, in her words, an almost laughable trope. Before the movie even premiered, fans began mocking the idea of a stalker prince, overshadowing Andrew's efforts to portray a more nuanced character. Rumors eventually sprang up that Andrew blamed Rachel's PR missteps for the negative reception. Though he hasn't publicly confirmed any riffs, insiders say he felt overshadowed by the controversy and frustrated that instead of celebrating the cast's hard work, the spotlight shone on social media spats and questionable remarks. Some even whisper that Andrew's scenes might be heavily reduced if Disney tries to salvage the film in any restructured release. For someone hoping to break out on the big stage, it must feel like having the rug yanked out from under him. Adding more friction is the simmering conflict between Rachel and Gal Gadot. Best known as a global superstar with a strong Israeli background, Gal has never shied away from her beliefs, once serving in the Israeli Defense Forces. Rachel, for her part, stirred up major controversy by using the film's promotion to share a post in support of Palestine, an extremely divisive political topic, especially next to Gal's Gal's well-known stance on Israel's security concerns. Insiders claim Disney executives were blindsided. They wanted zero controversy overshadowing this film, yet suddenly found themselves navigating intense backlash when fans discovered the stark differences in the star's public positions. At one point, tensions reportedly boiled over to the extent that producers flew directly to Rachel to plead for damage control. Meanwhile, Gal remained professional but distant. Industry whispers say the two barely shared a word during the film's promotional events, and often avoided being photographed together. If one star's controversies were tough enough for Disney to handle, the added friction with another A-lister only threw more fuel on the fire. And that wasn't the only spark set off by Rachel's social media. Rachel's online presence didn't stop at criticizing the original cartoon's plot or dabbling in heated world affairs. She also dived headlong into America's political divide, taking bold shots at Donald Trump and his followers. She posted a rant calling Trump supporters a deep sickness, even going as far as hurling insults and obscenities at them. This outburst triggered an immediate response from conservative corners of social media. Groups rallied, threatening to boycott the film unless Disney dropped its leading lady. For a studio that depends on parents, families, and a broad international audience, this spelled disaster. Half the population might well be alienated from your film if they're the target of such pointed attacks. Disney executives, already exhausted from prior controversies, launched a new wave of private meetings to salvage the situation. Reports suggest they even hired a social media consultant to manage Rachel's online presence, urging her to issue a peace-offering apology. She did eventually post a statement expressing regret for her strong language, claiming she'd let her emotions override better judgment. But to those already outraged, it sounded like too little, too late. They accused her of insincerity, believing she was just trying to keep her job, not make amends. By that point, the damage was done. Negative press was exploding, and the potential audience was more divided than ever. In the wake of staggering box office results and ceaseless drama, speculation began circulating that Disney might terminate Rachel's contract, cutting its losses before additional fallout. Then, talk of a possible lawsuit from Rachel's camp leaked to the internet. Some suggested she might sue for wrongful termination or for being sidelined in press tours that Disney allegedly canceled to minimize further controversy. Others claimed she was upset the film flopped and believed the studio was scapegoating her for the negative reception. Neither side has officially confirmed these rumors, but the tensions are obvious. Andrew Burnap's rumored frustration, Gal Gadot's distant stance, and the drumbeat of political outrage have all contributed to a festering situation that studios dread. In a business driven by profit and public image, such controversies could prompt any big player to quietly recast or reorder future projects. Whatever the ultimate decision, sources say Disney's top brass are assessing every angle with an almost frantic intensity, determined to prevent another fiasco like this. No matter which version of events you believe, be it Rachel as a misunderstood talent, or Disney as a behemoth trying to silence a free-spirited actress, one thing is certain: the repercussions of this meltdown are likely to linger. Casting directors and studios have become hyper-aware that a star can sink a project if controversies spiral out of control. Rachel's once promising trajectory could become a cautionary tale for other rising actors. No matter how gifted you are, stepping into an iconic role means carrying decades of legacy on your shoulders. Fans expect respect for their nostalgic treasures, and studios demand it for the sake of box office success. The broader question is whether Rachel can reinvent herself and move forward. Hollywood loves a comeback, and it's not impossible to bounce back from disastrous press if you show real growth and humility. But between the scorned Disney faithful, offended political groups, and co-stars who might be less than eager to work with her again, it could be a steep hill to climb. One misstep can haunt you for years in an industry that thrives on perception. The tragic irony is that a film meant to revive a classic fairy tale has turned into a high-stakes, real-world drama loaded with PR nightmares, political tension, and personal vendettas. From Rachel Zegler's missteps and Andrew Burnap's overshadowed performance to Gal Gadot's silent disapproval and Disney's scramble to protect its brand, each chapter of this controversy has fueled a frenzy of speculation. Whether Rachel manages a comeback or fades away as Hollywood's latest cautionary figure remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: this explosive saga has left fans and the film industry buzzing, and it won't be forgotten anytime soon. What do you think? Can Rachel revive her image and re-enter Disney's good graces? Or has she burned that bridge beyond repair? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because this story isn't finished yet.